In the month of May this year, the Chief Justice of India called a group of unemployed young people cockroaches, the parasites of society. He came out later and said that he was quoted out of context, but the damage was done. On the very next day, someone posted a single question online: what if all the cockroaches came together? Around 50,000 people signed up the next day and 1 million in a week. And that made me wonder, is this new? Has this happened before? None of this is new. People have been doing this for almost 500 years. In fact, it works so reliably that it's practically a law of human nature. Let's find out. Let's rewind to Brussels in 1566. A crowd of 200 noblemen show up to hand a petition to the regent of the Netherlands. She is understandably terrified by the sheer size of the mob, but her advisors lean over and whisper, "They're only beggars." 3 days later, those noblemen threw a banquet and decided to just agree with him. They officially called themselves the Beggars. They minted their own medals. They even wore wooden begging bowls around their necks like jewelry. And 6 years later, the Beggars, they captured their first town. And that town is essentially where the modern Netherlands begins. But the best example in this entire story happened in London in 1906. A journalist at the Daily Mail needed a word for the women who were trying to break windows to demand their right to vote. So he took the word suffragist, which was the respectable 40-year-old term, and added a tiny diminishing suffix to it, "et," the ending you tag onto kitchen or cigar. It's not a political argument, it was a patronizing pat on the head. So what did they do? They kept the word, but they changed how you say it. Not suffragette, suffragette, with a hard G, because we want the vote and we're going to get it. And 6 years later, they founded a newspaper and put his insult right on the masthead. And you see this everywhere once you start looking. Quaker started as a joke about a man shaking in a courtroom. Tory is actually an Irish word for a bandit. Sanskulu just meant you were too poor to afford the fancy trousers. Even the Big Bang was named by a guy who spent his entire life arguing that it never happened. So this is not a story about words, it's about who gets to decide what you are. Naming is the cheapest form of power in the world. It's free. It takes one sentence. You don't need an army. But it has exactly one weakness. It only works if you're actually ashamed. But there is one more thing, and it's why this particular word, cockroach, sits a little differently. Cockroach isn't beggar. In Rwanda in 1994, cockroach was the third broadcast on the radio to describe the people who were about to be murdered. So the people in India who just picked this up, they picked up something a lot heavier than a joke. Reclaiming a name is not a clever trick with language. It costs something. The beggars had to actually become outlaws. The suffragettes had to actually become what that word accused them of being. You can't take the name unless you're willing to be it.